Welcome back to the first Mackem in the Middle podcast of the season in partnership with FanHub Football. If you haven't already, go and download the app today. You can predict lineups before each game. You can check in at different stadiums. There's a few new features coming as well very soon. Compete in leaderboards against other fans, other clubs, fans from your own club. And ultimately, it's just to see who has the best fans, most loyal fans, and you can earn prizes for doing so. It sounds straightforward because it is straightforward. But yesterday, first game of the season, it was Sunderland versus Wigan at the Stadium of Light. A 2-1 win for Sunderland in which Mcgady and Ross Stewart got the goals. And John, Kyle and Michael are with me to join to discuss the game for the first time this season. You're all doing well.
I like the way you said both, because
Yeah.
you used to having two guests, aren't you?
I am.
But
yeah,
normal.
doing great.
Very good. First of all, John, obviously you weren't there yesterday, but fans were back in the stadium. There was actually an atmosphere, I'd imagine, when you were watching on the streams. It's just nice to be back to some sense of normality.
Yeah, like you say, of course it is. And there's obviously a myth gone by that fans may be the problem at the Stadium Light, but as yesterday proved, it's a massive help, and the atmosphere only aids performances. But yeah, it's nice to see some sort of normality with the football. Although I'm in isolation now for 10 days because my eldest son has tested positive. So yeah, fuming at home, but good to see. Good to see the Stadium of Light packed. That's what we like.
It is. And it was the first game of the season yesterday, Michael. And I don't think realistically I'm too out of place to say it has been somewhat of a shambles off the pitch at least. The tickets, some people haven't got season tickets yet. Some people have been given blank season tickets. And obviously there's the whole envelope malarkey, which to me doesn't make a difference. But, the kits have been sent back if you've ordered a kid's kit. Letters have been sent out to people without names on. And on the pitch, in terms of signings, they haven't really progressed as quick as we possibly expected them to. Going into the game yesterday, there was a lot of uncertainty, wasn't there?
There was, and there was a lot of a general pessimistic mood, which is more than justifiable, I thought. All the reasons you've just mentioned and highlighted. We are one of the biggest clubs in the country, and we're acting like we're a tin pot conference club with the way that we've been going about with the season cards. That was just a shambles, a disgrace. The signings, obviously, I think I've been quite vocal on social media that I've not been impressed with the fact that we've been taking our time with the signings. And the way I looked at it is with the signings that it's all well and good wanting better quality, but if you're waiting for these players, you better get those players then. You better make sure the wait's worth it. Hopefully it is, but time will tell. But going into the game, I did actually think that a win was going to be hugely needed to try and just lift morale again, because how many of us are really going to be enthusiastic about the fourth season in the third tier of English football? There's hardly anyone who's going to be chopping at the bit to be in this league. We all know we shouldn't be here. And I don't care that it isn't arrogant to say it. We all know it's not arrogant, but that narrative's been annoyingly persistent ever since we've dropped down into this division. But yesterday will only certainly help lift the spirits. I think we needed it, and I think we deserve the victory. I'm sure we'll get onto the game later, but it doesn't change the fact we need signings. It doesn't change the fact that a lot of things still need to improve, but a win, you certainly won't snuff your nose at it, and hopefully it only helps in the long run.
Yeah. And Kyle, I mentioned there, obviously, the signings, they've been slow. I think we've got 3 in so far, having lost 12 players in the summer. And obviously the whole season ticket thing. Do you think with all the stuff that's happened off the pitch, it kind of put a lot more pressure on Sunderland yesterday to win the opening game?
Oh, I definitely think so. And what was nice, while we're talking about not bringing in new signings and stuff, it was finally nice, though, to see some of the youth, some of the talent that we had already on the squad, the likes of Dan Neal or, even Winchester moving around a little bit, which I'm sure we'll get into the different aspects of that. But it was finally nice to see some of these kids that we've had who have gone through the academy, who almost feel like new signings to an extent. But at this point, we just need depth, because while it worked out yesterday, we're only a few injuries away from it not looking so great.
And we picked up one yesterday as well, didn't we? Which wasn't ideal. I don't know the severity of it. I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. But we'll go into the teams that did start for Sunderland yesterday. And I think this was... Oh, wait, no, I didn't. I got 10 out of 11 on the FanHub prediction. The one player that I didn't predict right was the goalkeeper, course, Lee Burge starting goal, Winchester, Doyle, Flanagan and Neil is the back four. Corby Evans, who is the new captain of Sunderland in midfield, alongside Embleton and O'Nien, with Mcgady, Gooch and Stewart as a front three. And John, as I say, it sort of picks itself at the moment. We haven't got too much depth. A lot of the kids are in and around the squad at the moment. That lineup wouldn't have filled you with too much optimism at the start of the game, I'd imagine.
I did actually predict that we'd play that, and I didn't. I think it is the strongest team we've got so far. Obviously, without seeing Pritchard at the moment, but Embleton's obviously earned his place. So I thought it was actually quite a strong team. I don't mind. Obviously, it's a problem that needs fixing with the fullbacks. But I didn't actually mind, even though Dan Neil maybe got caught out a few times. But I don't mind sort of Winchester and Neil being there when we're playing at home, and we can bring. They're actually really good at bringing the ball forward. It's not always natural, but they're very good at carrying the ball out. So maybe a right wing back coming in as well might change Gooch's game a little bit as well, because obviously Gooch is so good at getting forward and needs that space, and we don't. Sometimes last season Max Power would sort of go past him and almost to the detriment of the space for him. So it wasn't actually too bad. But like the guys were saying, we still need. I'm still on. We probably need 5. We need definitely a right back and a left back. Still need a striker, maybe another attacking player, and obviously a centre back, because we've got a few centre back. Obviously, issues maybe. What's his name's away? Bailey Wright, by the looks of it. I was quite surprised he didn't start, but I did predict Flanagan would, and they didn't do too bad. But yeah, the squad still needs freshen up. As Michael was saying, it's all right being patient, but that patience has got to be able to pay off. In the transfer market, and we've heard that is it Sirkin, I think, from Tottenham, and obviously I've never seen him play, and anyone who claims they have is. Obviously probably lying. But by all accounts, he looks like a shoe-in for, a decent signing. So if those players are going to come, and that's what we have waited for, and those players, like I say, do come, then it'll be it's a good build. But getting the result yesterday was the main thing. Just getting through it. We've got a game Tuesday. We can give a lot of the kids a game. I say the kids are actually in the squad this season. Yeah. So just the actual squad is not doing too bad at the moment, but we just need to keep building it. And if the results come, we haven't really got anything to complain about.
Yeah, and Michael, we'll get onto it a little bit towards the end again. But given that is the full strength squad that we currently have available, fullbacks aside, would you be happy with that for the rest of the season?
There's a couple of with Tom Flanagan personally, no. I think Flanagan. I do agree with John. Actually, I did think that Flanagan did all right yesterday with Doyle, but I would like to see a better equipped centre half. I'm one of the. I don't think Lee Burge is as bad as I've seen some people make him out to be. Although to be fair, there was one effort when I think John Edwards actually had a shot straight at him, which bounced off him, which did cause us a bit of nerves. So I'm contradicting myself there more than likely. Going for not the first time. Going forward, I do actually think that side does have quality in it. I think you got Elliot Embleton, who performed well with Blackpool, got him promoted. As much as I'm very frustrated with Lyndon Gooch, and I'm one of his biggest critics, I thought he was very, very good yesterday, and I did actually think that he's someone who can get goals and assists in this league. We all know the quality Aidan Mcgady's got, and I know we'll get on to the infamous Charlie White in a bit, but you look at Ross Stewart, that is showing him up in terms of what he offers on the pitch. So round your question off, aspects of it, yes, but there's definitely improvements still needing to be made. But obviously, as you said yourself, fullbacks aside, with Winchester getting injured, we don't know how long that's for. So I don't know who on earth's going to play it right back then, but still much to be done, but there you go.
Yeah. And as Michael seems to do a lot when we do these podcasts, he doesn't mean to do it, but he does often lead on to the next point that I'm going to make, and he does it very well.
Oh, you don't know? I don't mean to do it. It could be all
But Kyle, the game yesterday was the first league game, realistically, we had without Wyke. And obviously, a lot of the goal that he scored last season was a case of getting the ball down the wing, specifically to Aidan Mcgady on the left, getting the ball into the box, hoping that he wins the header and scores. You take Wyke out of the team, as we did yesterday. You've got Ross Stewart in there, who's not afraid to run the channels. He can get the ball, he can play the ball. He's good with his feet. there's just a lot more freedom to the player now with Wyke out of the team and Stewart in the team, isn't there?
Definitely, yes. It does provide players like, for example, Gooch, or even people running down the wings as well, a little bit more freedom, like you said. Cut it inside a little bit, play it through on the ground. Embleton had a few really nice weighted passes through the lines of defense, and those are the type of balls we've been looking out for. Sure, last season the Mcgady to White combo. I mean, we're not gonna don't, if it's not broke, don't fix it type of thing. But as soon as the team figures that out, you're very one-dimensional. And yesterday was the first time I really watched that attacking side. And we talk about the lack of fullbacks or maybe a shaky defense. Well, sometimes a good offense is kind of your best defense, right? If you can outshoot the other team, if you can put pressure on them, if you can essentially score more goals than the other team, it can make up for a lot of that pressure that the inexperienced backline might be feeling. So yeah, yesterday I really felt that Ross Stewart really put his name on the back of the jersey, really, and said, "Hey, I'm here now. I'm not Wyke. I'm not 30-goal scorer. We don't necessarily need him to be." Just seeing how he interacted yesterday and how he linked up play, and just seems like a good person all around as well. People really excited when he scored, so I like seeing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think Wyke. I think we got the most out of Wyke. I see a lot of people kind of slagging him off and things like that, and talking this and that, and I don't necessarily agree with that, just because I don't think it's a great look, and maybe we'll get into that later. But I think right now we can be excited about the players we do have instead of the players that left, and I think Ross Stewart was a great bit of scouting and identifying the type of player that we need, someone who can still win those headers in the box from a perfect Mcgady delivery, or one that can trap that ball, play it on the ground, allow players to run into space, and open up some more opportunities.
Yeah. And I know, John, you posted a good photo on Twitter, didn't you, of Ross Stewart celebrating the goal, and there was a certain someone in the foreground of the image, wasn't there?
Yeah, Charlie White was looking on. It was a brilliant picture. Absolutely. It wasn't actually my favourite one. My favourite one was when Ross Stewart scored and Charlie White's sort of just turned his back on him. He did frequently for us. So it's nice to see, that go for us instead of against us constantly.
Please tell me you tweeted that to Matty Wyke before you leave.
Oh no.
No, he's deleted his account, and he.
Yeah. What?
He can handle the pressure.
I mean, the last time I checked, Middlesbrough 1-0 down as well. I don't know if that's changed. It was
It finished
a good
1-1.
time ago. Finished 1-1, did it? I suppose he has something to look forward to, then, isn't he?
Yeah,
a little bit of positivity in his weekend. Hopefully not too much. But Michael, the game started. Both sides were up for it. There was plenty of attacking from both sides. And from the start, we just looked to have much more intent going forward than we did last season. And again, Kyle mentioned it. I've mentioned it a little bit. Last season, it was kind of, right, wherever you are on the pitch, get the ball on the wing, cross it in. Whereas yesterday, you could play the ball into Stewart or into Embleton or down the wing. There was just so many more options going forward, and we seemed to have just a lot more freedom going forward as well.
Well, it adds variety, doesn't it? It adds variety when you're going forward, because as Kyle touched upon, that where basically the tactic last year was pass to Mcgady, cross to Wyke, head, score. That's pretty much, and that, I mean, I think the club, even remember when we beat Doncaster 4-1, I think the club put a tweet out and it was something like control plus V plus alt or whatever it is. And it was like basically the same combination 4 times, and it worked. And that's very rare that happens. And as Kyle also alluded to, when teams figure that out, and when you take Wyke out of the game, basically, we didn't offer anything. We looked very stale. So it was so refreshing yesterday to see Embleton was pressing down the channels. Ross Stewart was pressing down the channels. Gooch was torturing their left back completely. Mcgady, the quality that he brings. But what it did was made Wigan, I'm trying to think not to swear, brick themselves. Let's put it that way. It had them really panic and not know what to do. And that's the sort of thing we want to be seeing in this league. Because if you're an opposition, we want the opposition to think, well, hang on, if we press Mcgady, that leaves Gooch down the wings and it leaves Embleton free down the centre and Ross Stewart can run in behind. It confuses opposition defences. And that's exactly what we should be doing, especially when we're in League One. And the variety was just so refreshing to watch. It was so refreshing. It was good to see as well Embleton could actually take some decent corners. It was nice to see that we could actually look threat from set pieces. And after the first 15 minutes. I mean, the few minutes leading up to them taking the lead, Wigan, you could argue, were the better side. But I thought afterwards, and very good response from Sunderland to get level quickly with getting the penalty from kickoff and scoring. We just didn't look back. We looked the better side. We made them look very average. So it's all positive there. Hopefully, that continues. But the problem, again, the caveat is, can you keep these guys fit? Because we know what our looks like with injuries.
Yeah. And he's done it again. Michael has done it again. But Wigan did take the lead.
Intentional. Well, not intentional going behind in the game, but intentional trying to lead the next point.
I'd hope so. I would hope so. But realistically, I think it was kind of against the run of play. Neil, again, who isn't a left back, and again, we will get onto that later on when we do the player ratings, but he was rinsed on the left-hand side. I think there was just a through ball, and he was late to it. Ball into the box. Came out to Edwards on the edge, who found the top corner. And I'm sure Lee Johnson is well aware of it, John, but it definitely outlines the need to just strengthen in defence as soon as we can.
Yeah, definitely. Even Power and White would have said, they've got a young midfielder at the back. Absolutely get at him, and they would. And for all he's doing well, and he's a good player. He's not left back, and we need an actual specialist player who knows what he's doing. Who can literally slot in there, bowl accounts. We have one coming, so I'd like to see that in before at least next weekend, which you would have thought would be done. But yeah, teams are going to look at that and try and target it, because it's definitely. I don't want to be harsh to him, because I thought he did all right, but they, like Michael said, they did get in a few times, and obviously the goal came from that side as well. So yeah, we maybe do need to shore that up going forward.
Since it was Wigan's big day out of the year, some of the fans did bring smoke bombs down to the ground, and once they scored, there was one chucked onto the pitch. And by the time the smoke bomb had actually went off, Sunderland were awarded a penalty at the other end. I think it was something like 50 seconds later, after the restart. Ross Stewart played in, and he's brought down, and I've seen it at the ground. I was at the other side of the stadium. I've seen it on the Sky Sports highlights, which seems to be recorded from the other side of the stadium. So I haven't really seen a good angle of it. Wigan fans obviously aren't happy with it, as you wouldn't be regardless. But Kyle, for you, is that a decision that we might have potentially got away with? Is that a soft penalty for you?
Listen, the first thing I thought of was, if there were still no fans allowed, if this was an empty stadium, I could almost guarantee that goes uncalled. But the fact that the fans immediately jumped up, made the commotion, I think that definitely put, the ref, I thought, was overall fine yesterday, but I do think it played to our hand. So when people do try to bring up that point, it's the fans, that is a situation where the fans completely can change the theme of a game. And right there, I think, if, like I said, no fans in the stadium, doesn't go called. But the fans right there jumped on top of it. I think there was enough contact to warrant it. And I think the emotion played a part of it from the fans. And either way, it was a great ball through. I believe it was Embleton who played him in. Good run and play. But I just love seeing the response there. As soon as we went down, 1-0, I was like, man, here we go again. But the fact that we immediately lined back up, played it up, Embleton got control of the ball, played it through to Stewart, and he did a good job of putting himself between the ball and the defender. Defender came right through him. I think it was good. I think it was a good call overall, but I do think the fans definitely played their role right there.
Yeah. And John, is it a case of one of them where against you want it? If it's against you don't want it, obviously, but for you, you're going to claim for it, and you're going to be annoyed if it doesn't get given to you.
Yeah, I just think it's a penalty in this day and age. Not necessarily has to be much contact, but I think when you look at it, Stewart just puts his leg, just gets it across, and the defender only has to just touch him, and then he can say he's been impeded. But yeah, it certainly helps with 31,000 screaming. Even though I thought the referee was in a really good position, he was right behind, and he seemed quite sure that it was a penalty. But yeah, 31,000 people don't half help, don't it? If you're trying to persuade someone, shall we say?
Yeah, and Michael, like Kyle said there, and how I said again, 50 seconds later or something it was from the restart to getting the penalty. And I know there was a lot of games last season, not just last season, but I suppose during our time in League One, potentially even as a club, this can go on for a long time, when we've conceded a goal, probably against the run of play, and we've just kind of fell into our shell a little bit. would start lumping the ball forward, would lose it, the fans would get unnerved, and it would just all start to crumble slowly. But it just did the opposite yesterday. It didn't really seem to faze us, and we just went straight down the other end with no worries, really.
Like, exactly, that's the response you want. I think that obviously I think the players themselves will know the expectation on the club and on the players while we're in this league. And when a plan goes against us, as you've touched upon yourself, when we concede a goal, I think it tends to just unsettle everybody. But what was good, like I said, what was good yesterday was I think that we barely lost the ball in the 50 seconds between conceding and then getting the penalty. So straight away, you're giving yourself a route back into the game, and getting level would meant that momentum starts to shift with you. Take momentum away from Wigan, bring it back among yourselves, and then from, like I've said, from there we didn't really look back. But mentally, it's good that yesterday, while I would have preferred we didn't concede, obviously, it's definitely good in the sense that we've come from behind to get a win. And it even reminded me a little bit of the first season in League One. For all our shortcomings and we didn't go up, there was a lot of times, especially early on, when we went behind in games, but very rarely ended up losing. So although you don't want to be going behind, you don't want to be gift wrapping the lead to teams on a plate. You want to be, if you do go behind, the fact you've got the character to come back and get something, it's got to be good for the confidence, for the fans, and especially for the players.
Yeah. Well, Mcgady stepped up to take it, and as Mcgady does when he gets a penalty, most of the time, he did score it to make it 1-1. And in terms of the remainder of the first half, John, both sides, a lot of it, like I say, a lot of attacking intent, a lot of fast movement of the ball, which I think we kind of struggled with a bit last season, especially when you have the likes of Ledbetter and Power in midfield, and Power did it yesterday for Wigan. A lot of pointing, you'd get the ball, you'd play it sideways, but with Corby Evans in midfield, who again, like I keep saying, we'll get onto later on, but he moved the ball very quickly and more often than not as a progressive pass as opposed to backwards or sideways, and it was just a very open half, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but if we're going to be open, I think we're one of the teams who've definitely got the squad, to do it. I maybe would have been slightly worried, although that's maybe giving him a bit of compliment, if Jordan Jones was playing and it was more of an open game, because we know he's fairly good at going forward and he would have been pumped up yesterday. But if we're, I think we have said it for a few seasons now, if we go literally toe to toe with teams, we've got such an attacking intent, and we've got the ability, then there's no reason, even if we do concede, we can still outscore teams. Do you know what I mean? The Barnsley game a few years back was a case of point. It was really open. I think it finished 4-2 in the end. But if you're gonna, like I say, if we go toe to toe with anyone in the league, you would expect us to do the business with the quality we've got up top. The defence, is okay with Doyle and Corey Evans sitting in there and just holding. We've got Luco 9 breaking the lines, and the movement of Embleton and Stewart is very good compared to, like you say, last season and the midfield. And even Corey Evans, I didn't see many passes backward yesterday, but like you said, you could count countless times last season of Power, Ledbetter just literally back recycle. That's all right when you're 3-0 up. I can live with that, and that's what we should have done. But we need to get 3-0 up first. So it is nice, especially at home as well. Maybe not so gung ho, when we're away from home, we might have to pick and choose our moments, but we've got the ability. So why not when we get to Stadium Light and the atmosphere creates that, in attacking intent. And how many times did we see, Gooch going forward yesterday? Sort of, he beat his man every time. Obviously, he didn't always get the ball into the box, but he just had to beat him the whole time, and that's what we want to see, going forward.
Yeah. Well, the second half was much of the same from a Sunderland point of view. I think Wigan did sort of fall off a little bit. Obviously, they had the beating of especially Neil and at times Winchester in the first half. Looked to play a lot of it down the wing. Second half, they made the mistake that we made for the first 3 seasons when we had Johnny Wyke, centre half, lumping it up to Wyke and hoping for something, and it just never paid off for them. But again, early in the half, Embleton corner, he's whipped it into the front post, and Stewart's there to head in to the far corner, which did in turn lead to that amazing picture of Wyke just onlooking as his team are 2-1 down. And I hope someone got a picture of Matty Wyke at that point as well. That would be interesting.
That would be karma.
That would be good. I'm sure he was there. He must have been there. Someone needs to find a photo of him. There must be one floating around somewhere. But realistically, Kyle, that goal 2-1 up, it was deserved, wasn't it?
Oh, without a doubt. Yep, just beautiful. You mentioned Embleton's set pieces yesterday, and being able to have him on the corners, and that keeps our best skilled players kind of in that box in the dangerous area to kind of soak up defense. And then you got Ross Stewart, who's 6'10", could probably dunk a basketball, I'm sure. He just towers over him, and it was great because Wyke, the one thing while he's tall, he doesn't have much verticality. He can jump, get that little extra inch, but I mean Ross Stewart just towered over him, timed it better. Perfectly placed ball, just glanced right off his head and into the corner, and that really set the tone. I think coming out that second half, saying like, hey, well, now we have the upper hand. Now we're going to play our style of football and really, put it on them, put it on Wigan to attack. And I think from there, and I'm sure we'll get more onto it, is just like we mentioned in the midfield, how we had Power and those guys who would just play it back and play it sideways. That kind of ended up being detriment because anytime they would have the ball, they weren't looking to attack. They were waiting, spreading out, spreading it back, and that just allowed us to really be solid, allow Corby Evans to really organize things back there. And I think they did a great job kind of holding on to that lead, moving through the rest of the second half.
Yeah. And Michael, we went 2-1 up, and I'd say it was the last 15 minutes or so. We did start to kind of regress a little bit. We dropped off a lot. I think Aidan O'Brien came on, and I could not tell you for the life of me what position he was playing, because he seemed to just kind of be sitting in front of the back four, which, bear in mind, we signed him as a striker, was interesting. And realistically, as I've probably said about 40 or 50 times so far, he just really did nothing when he came on. But as a Sunderland fan, you've got 15 minutes left. You are just defending the lead, no intent of really going forward. I think Gooch did hit the bar in the second half, but it does start getting that bit more nerve-wracking as a Sunderland fan when you are just defending the lead, isn't it, Michael?
Well, I can't think of many times where it's not nerve-wracking as a Sunderland fan, to be honest. But the last 15 minutes, I think it was, you could tell that the tension was there. And again, like we've highlighted, it's the desperation to win, it's the desperation to get promoted out of this league. Every time we're in front, it's always nerve-wracking. I thought Aidan O'Brien he offered energy, which I guess you could argue you need when you're defending a 1-goal lead, but there was a couple of times he was just running into empty spaces and not really doing anything. This is the thing. I wasn't like, I think towards the during the game itself, I was kind of shouting my head off, going, "Why on earth are you sitting back, man? Come on, get forwards!" But it's just the nerves of it at the time. Because obviously you don't know how it's going to play out. But in reality, Wigan, for all that they had a bit of possession, apart from that Edwards shot at Burge in the second half that I mentioned earlier, apart from that, I can't really think of a chance they had. Maybe Wyke one way headed over the bar, but it was like way over. It was hardly close to going on target.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what we ultimately wanted. I mean, to be fair, by that point we probably should have been 2 or 3 goals ahead, which thankfully we got away with it. But it is something that we need when we get the chances. We need to finish them off. Like you said, Gooch hitting the bar. Ross Stewart had a good header when he jumped at the back post and it headed just wide. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Embleton and Mcgady across the ball, but still, yeah, it's never ever easy following Sunderland. I think I've just come to accept that now.
Yeah. It's always been a stressful 90 minutes.
It shouldn't be, but we know it is.
It is. But it did finish 2-1. 3 points to start the season. Matty Wyke, as we mentioned, deactivated his Twitter. I think Paul Kendrick is probably blocked half of Sunderland fans on Twitter nowadays. I mean, he quoted our tweet, I replied to it, and about 30 seconds later I was blocked. I think Rogo Report got blocked as well. I'm sure there's plenty of others that also got blocked. Charlie Wyke
blocked him,
so
that's a victory for you then. There you go.
Did he block you first, though?
No, I blocked him first. Didn't even give him the chance.
That's fine. That's 1-1 then. I'm classing that as a 1-1.
Yeah, fair enough.
But Charlie Wyke, he showed his true colours and kind of backed up our argument of what we've been saying to Wigan fans about how he plays and what he actually offers to the team, which, unless you're pinging the ball at his head from 5 yards, isn't awfully much. There's so many other things, but ultimately just a good day all around, John.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like you say, the old boys didn't really come back and threaten. I didn't really expect them to, because as one of my tweets said, they didn't really.
It is Sunderland, however. We do have a history of letting our old players come back to haunt us.
Yeah, but in fairness, those players haven't, Charlie White scoring those goals, but they haven't really, proper stepped up at the Stadium of Light when we've really needed them. So, White's got the goals, but enough said about them. The bet, it's on to bigger, better things with us. But yeah, 31,000 in the ground, which is amazing considering where we are. But I've never doubted that, even though most of us get slated all the time. But yeah, it's nice to have the fans back in. It's nice. It's nice to get off to a winning feeling. I think we went about a decade without even winning our first home game, or we even winning a game in August. So do you know what I mean? Just get those 3 points. I think we did okay. I still think the squad needs. If we're going to play that way, I'd like to see us be able to bring on players who can replicate what we've, how we're playing still for the last half an hour. If Pritchard was coming on for Embleton, that's another thing for them to think about. If Diamond was a little bit more, obviously we'd like someone else, but Diamond coming on for Gooch didn't playing in Gooch's position. Didn't really have the same effect, and obviously we haven't really got something that Stewart offers. Will Gregg's not really going to be that man, and as you said, Aidan O'Brien sort of played in the Grant Ledbetter role, so he's more of a fill. I'd like to see us go for a few players who we can bring on when we can still stretch teams, because technically if we'd have pushed on, it could have been 3-4-1, and maybe then other teams as well were looking at us thinking, Jesus, they've just smashed Wigan, who a lot of people have said, oh, but they've signed this player and that player. I've probably even said it myself, but then to beat them at our place, and I don't think they really threatened us. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't like a smash and grab that we did. I thought we just worked hard. We played our game, and it's things are slowly falling into place after I wouldn't call it a meltdown, but a few rumblings of the signings aren't coming and everyone else is signing, and it's nice to just get the result. If you win football matches, that does help and keep a lot of the pressure off. So that's all we can do.
Yeah. We'll move into player ratings from the game, which I'm sure you've missed doing. But start, Lee Burge. Like Michael said, I think he had like one save to make, which wasn't particularly convincing. But there was a few crosses came into the box. He collected them reasonably well for Lee Burge. But like I say, he was relatively unchallenged for the game. So 6 out of 10. Michael, we'll start with you.
You've just led on to my point, really. Reverse, yeah.
Returning the favour.
Yeah, 6 as well. I mean, obviously that like I touched on, that shot from Edwards, I think he could have maybe looked a little bit more convincing. But other than that, he didn't have that much to do. But when he had to collect crosses, he came to collect the crosses and just did what he had to do. So same rating.
Yeah, and John, for you?
Yeah, same. All I've got written down really. It was a little bit spilly a couple of times, but it's nothing. Yeah, it was. I'd like to see a little bit more command. But then on the other hand, he did come out and claim a few crosses and sort of, take the pressure off us, and we protected him fairly well. To be fair, like we did last season. So as long as we protect him well, he should be all right going forward.
Yep. And Kyle, for you, Lee Burge.
Yeah, I think for what Lee Burge lacks in being able to, catch the ball properly, he makes up for positionally. He's always in the right position. And we saw a little bit of Patterson. I saw a lot of people saying, oh, we should start Patterson. Patterson positionally is a nightmare. I mean, he comes out too quick, things like that. If we could combine the two, we'd have an amazing keeper. But I think what's important is that at the end of the day, the keeper's in the right position. Whether or not he catches the ball, we'll work on that, right? But he was positionally fantastic. I mean, every shot that came in, he was either there or, had others in front of him. So, yeah, I think 6 out of 10 is well warranted.
Yeah. I think anyone listening to this podcast now and hearing that our goalkeeper can't catch the ball, I think that might have put any scouts off him, put it that way.
Yeah, he was secure with Lee Burge.
Yeah.
Winchester started at right back, obviously signed as a midfielder, but since we do not have a single fullback at the club other than, I think, that Tyrese Dice who signed for the under-23s. So Winchester started at right back. You can tell he's not a right back. He played some neat stuff, did his job, didn't really make any mistakes. So again, 6 out of 10. Michael?
Probably again about the same rating. I think that you can definitely tell that Winchester isn't a right back, but when you haven't, it was so threadbare in the squad that it's like, oh, by the way, we know that at our club, midfielders playing right back's a tradition, right, Winnie? So you go and fulfill it, son.
And John, for you?
Yeah, same. I thought he was just neat and tidy, did his job. And like I said, he didn't really get too far forward, which allowed Gooch to play his game, which I think he excelled at. So yeah, I thought it was all right. A little bit of a shame to be, he's had to come off, which probably doesn't look too good. That'll probably be a couple of weeks, I would have thought. And then, we're thinking about next week, who we're going to play there next week. So, but yeah, I thought he did all right, to be fair.
Wouldn't be Sunderland without an injury crisis, would it?
Yeah, definitely.
Wouldn't.
And Kyle, for you on Winchester?
Yeah, I felt like he did well. He's a big kid for sure. Very physical. So I think that lended to him playing a little bit better than maybe Daniel or other makeshift man on the in the fullbacks. But I think he played some really nice balls to Gooch. I think they had a very good partnership. So yeah, I would say 6, almost 7, just with some of the passes that he played. He held his own. He's physical. Which I think that's really all you need. Not afraid to go in there for a tackle. He made some really nice tackles as well. So yeah, I think overall for being in that position, a little bit out of his element, I think he did just fine. If we had to, worst case scenario, rely on either him or Dan Neal, I think Winchester would be a better fit on to play fullback there if needed. Hopefully not, but if needed.
Hopefully not. But moving on to the centre half, Callum Doyle. And I did put a tweet out yesterday that I think it was 96 replies asking who said it. But I assure you I didn't make it up. There was a few people questioning his performance yesterday, which I didn't really agree with. I thought his passing, especially in that first half, there was a couple, there was maybe 3 or 4 passes he'd made from one side of the pitch to the other that were just inch perfect. Couldn't fault them at all. Obviously, Charlie Wyke, he's a big forward. He's a strong forward. Chances are he's going to win something in the air. What he does with it, I don't know. And ultimately, he didn't do much with it when he did. But I thought Callum Doyle, held his own throughout the game. Like I say, composed on the ball, dealt well with Charlie Wyke. So I went with an 8 out of 10 for Doyle, Michael.
I'm going to go 1 up and go a 9. Actually, now because I'm trying to think of my rating for Ross Stewart because I'm deciding about man of the match later. No, still screw it. Go on, I'll stick with it. 9. I think I've said this on social media as well. The fact that he's only 17 absolutely astounds me because he must have had some really good development, even in City's under 23s, to look that good so far. I hasten to add, because we have only seen him for one competitive game in pre-season, but every time I've watched him, he's been comfortably the best defender. And there's been a number of times that he's bailed Flanagan out. And Flanagan did all right himself yesterday. But as for Doyle, I mean, literally brought the ball out of defence. As simple as that sounds, it helps relieve the pressure. And so instead of just hoofing it like we used to do, and hopefully have stopped doing, we bring the ball out of defence, and it just calms everything down. He kept he kept someone who scored over 30 goals last season in his back pocket, and I'm not even exaggerating. He did. Charlie Wyke, that shows how good you are, mate. You got pocketed by a 17-year-old. So I was very, very impressed with him. He just shows so much maturity for his age. It's frightening. And as I think Cal might have touched upon this, that's absolutely. I think I saw someone else say that there's unfortunately no hope we'll get him permanently at the end of it, but might as well enjoy what we've got him if he keeps this up anyway.
Yeah. John, for you?
Yeah, I've gone for an 8. I think Michael's covered literally all of it. I thought, he was superb. No, not at all. Not at all. Saves me talking. But yeah, like you say, bringing the ball out is quality and just makes everything look so easy. If I was being super critical, I'd maybe say a couple of times he just overrun it a little bit instead of just playing the pass and get back in. But like you say, he's 17. I would say he's still learning, but it's just those little things, just know when to release. But yeah, apart from that, he was, he looks like, an absolute cut above in every way that what we're used to of League One defenders. And again, like Michael said, there's no chance we'll get him. It's a sort of player who, probably 2 or 3 years time will be sort of number 1 centre back for Man City. That's how they play is bringing the ball out and playing it. And fair play to him for letting us have him. I must admit, when we were linked, I thought, 17-year-old, what's the point? But that shows you what I know about football.
To be honest as well, just to point out that if he does start for Man City in a few years, if he keeps that up, he would not look out of place, I think.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I think he could handle with a Joe Linton or someone quite easily. But Kyle, for you, Callum Doyle?
Yeah, just to wrap it up, I think what is very surprising for somebody his age is his recognition and reading of the game. I think there's one play in particular pretty late into the second half. It's probably Dan Neal or someone on his same side kind of got caught out, and a ball was being played through, and in a flash, he just comes from off camera right there, like right onto the ball, perfectly intercepting it. And it's that sort of vision where there's zero hesitation, right? I think even some of the fullbacks and center halves that we've had, they've been in the league for a while, but they're at that point in their career where their brain is not kind of synced up with their feet as far as reaction time. And it was incredible to see somebody with not even a moment's hesitation, knew where he's supposed to be, covered for his man on the back line, was able to intercept that pass, play it up, and I'm sure we had an attack out of it. So it's fun to see somebody who really does play with no fear, and he's probably just young enough where he hasn't had to. He's just playing out there, seeing the game as he sees it, and you love to see it.
Yeah. Centre back partner, Tom Flanagan. I'm just not a fan of Flanagan, as I think everybody's learned by now. But he did a job yesterday, I suppose. But the main difference with, you look at Flanagan, you look at Sanderson from last season, you look at Doyle. When Flanagan gets the ball, he just stands, and it's so annoying to watch. There's people around me all the time just saying, just go forward with it, just drive 10 yards forward, then play the pass, get us up the pitch. But he doesn't. He looks for a simple pass, which, given his passing ability, probably isn't a bad thing. But there is times when he can drive forward with the ball, but doesn't. And he just really doesn't fill me with hope. But ultimately, I don't think I can fault him yesterday. So I went with a 6, Michael.
Yeah, that's probably about the right rating for me. I think I've joined the not a fan of Tom Flanagan camp. I just think that when you get forward, he just doesn't look very secure with the ball, and I think sometimes he doesn't seem to know what he wants to do, whether it is to lump it out, whether to play sideways, whether to try and drive forwards and pass the ball forwards. But as for yesterday, to be fair to him, I thought Doyle, like I said, Doyle, you can tell even when Doyle's 17, you can tell that's easily the difference in technical quality. But to be fair to Flanagan, he did all right yesterday. And again, when you're keeping we know the threat Charlie White can pose, so he helped keep him quiet. You can't really complain, I suppose.
Yeah, and John, for you?
Yeah, I've gone for 6. To be fair, I thought he was all right yesterday. I didn't really notice him. He probably just gets marked down to a 6 because it might have been 7. It's because the amount of time the guy's got to score the goal. I've got to think the marking's got to be slightly better in there. Even to be near him, annoyed me. And as well, I think he probably should score as well at the other end. But that's maybe being a little bit super critical. But yeah, I thought it was all right and steady yesterday.
Yeah, is that the half volley that was blocked that you're referring to?
Yeah,
that was the back post,
forever.
wasn't it?
Just that. Yeah, I think he should probably score that.
Just hoofed it towards the goal, wasn't it? It wasn't even a shot. Just hoofed it. What Flanagan does, isn't it?
Well, he got blocked, so it looks less.
Kyle, for you?
Yeah, I think you guys summed it up. Yeah, I think Flanagan has mastered the tactical foul. Kind of midway, when him and Doyle were kind of guarding White a few times. Not really in a dangerous area, but he just felt, hey, I might get beat here. I'm just gonna kind of drag an arm or kind of pull out that tactical foul. So as far as doing that, just fine. As long as it's not in a dangerous area, I'm totally fine with that. So I think overall he held his own. He had some good communication with Doyle. I saw him coaching him up a few times as well, which I think is important. That I just hope we have a center back pairing that can stick together most of the season. So we'll see how this goes.
And I'm not sure if you'll remember it, but there was a part of the game, I think it was in the first half. I think Tom Flanagan had the ball in our corner, started doing keepy-ups, fell to the ground, and just won a free kick, which I was quite impressed with. I don't know if you remember
that. Intentional then?
It was definitely an interesting bit of play from Flanagan, I will say. But Dan Neal, left back, possibly harsh. I went with a 4 out of 10, and I don't. It's a weird one because I don't think he had a bad game on the ball, but you can tell he's not a defender. There was multiple times where he was beaten on the left hand side. Obviously, that's where their goal came from, and as soon as Jordan Jones came on and started attacking, although I think he was attacking Winchester more than he was Neil. But as soon as Jones came on and, you've got Dan Neil at left back, you do start to think, where could this go? But luckily it didn't come to anything. But like I said, I just think if you're relying on him to play left back many more games, you will probably ship more goals than you'd expect. So I think I might go with a 5 out of 10 actually, but I'll stick with a 5, Michael.
Yeah, I'm debating whether to go with a 5 or a 6. No, I think I probably have to go with 5 because ultimately, as harsh as it is, we have to judge him as a fullback because that was where he played yesterday. And Wigan's goal originated from an attack down his side. I think he was going far forward up the pitch and ended up getting completely out of position, and we were completely exposed down that flank. But to be fair to him, for the rest of the game, I didn't think he put much of a foot wrong. I was actually amazed that even after the goal, Wigan didn't really target the fullback positions as much as I thought they would, because I was certain that with someone like Jordan Jones, I know there's obviously a lot of people aren't a big fan of Jordan Jones. I personally quite like Jordan Jones, but I think they would have used the wing play to target the fact we haven't got any fullbacks, but they just didn't. So Neil did all right. Not, but hopefully, as you said, if he's playing, it's in his preferred position, not at fullback.
Yeah. John, for you?
Yeah, I went for 6. I didn't think he did too bad. We've got to remember, he's still covering, even though we're judging him on, actually playing left back. He's ultimately there because we haven't got another one. And
it's definitely not his fault. Definitely not.
He's the closest. He's the closest thing we've got to, to anything. He is literally just doing a job in there, which might just be the detriment to him going back into midfield. I think because obviously the boys in midfield did okay. So yeah, I've gone for 6 because he's, ultimately it's doing us a favour there, but the club really do need to help him out, if you know what I mean. But a couple of times he got done, but you've got to expect that, and I wouldn't necessarily say the goal was, on him, because I think a few things happen after that, and if we're better organised in the middle and sort of better covering and better marking, then that goal doesn't happen. And then we're probably not even talking about it, but yeah, the club needs to help him out, I think.
I don't know if I'd say surprise is the right word, but obviously they brought in Tyrese Dice, and he did play the first few pre-season games at left back. I don't think he's injured or anything, but I know he was brought in as an under-23 player. Were you surprised to see him not in the squad at all, John? Obviously, like I say, he is a natural left back and didn't do a bad job in pre-season.
I just think at the moment with the players we've got, they're a little bit more used to the, I'd say, the physicality of League One. I think they still would have targeted Neil as much as they'd have targeted Dice if he'd have played. So it probably was, let's just put Neil in there. It's a safer bet. I don't think Dice looks too bad, but you can tell he maybe needs 6 months maybe to just sort of just toughen up maybe just slightly. But yeah, we really do need to get onto this Tottenham guy and get him in very, very quickly.
Yeah. And Kyle, for you, Daniel?
Yeah, I think overall he held his own. In the first half, you saw Mcgady actually tracking back quite a bit, helping him out. Which, if you can get that out of your 35-year-old winger, that's incredible. You're not going to get that over the course of 90 minutes, though. So I think in those situations, Mcgady did do a good job helping back. Just wasn't sustainable. I think he did hold his own. The one thing I did like is he's quick enough, right, that he doesn't have to resort to fouling. And I think we saw that a lot last season. People get kind of on that wing area against someone like Max Power. Max Power is pretty physical. He would just commit the foul, and now they have a really good free kick opportunity. I don't remember any free kicks really coming from a dangerous area from a Dan Neil foul for being out of position or not being quick enough to recover. So I think overall he did his role well, and didn't really give up a critical mistake.
Yeah, you've done a good job there, reminding me of Callum McFadzean.
Yes. Sorry, I was trying not to even remember him, but yeah, that was quite the staple of last season.
When we play Crew, we'll be reminded of him. All right.
Yeah,
we will. Hopefully, he starts against us.
Definitely forgotten. Gone and definitely forgotten.
Moving into midfield, Corby Evans, who, like I said right at the start, is the captain. So injury-free, providing I think he will start almost every game, at least the league games. And I just thought he was one of the best players on the pitch yesterday. as I've said, the difference between him and someone like Power, he gets the ball, he moves it quickly. You know, he can play that long pass, he can play the short pass, and there was so many times last season, and we mentioned it in podcasts that we did. I mentioned it when I was at the games. Well, not last season, but from when I've watched Power, he'd get the ball off the centre half, he'd run 5 yards, he'd go back to the centre half, and then he'd run 5 yards to the side of the centre half and get it back. And I think that's the difference with Evans. He'll get the ball, and there's no thought of going backwards. He'll still play a simple pass, but it's a simple pass that gets us up the pitch, gets us moving, and you know, he put some big tackles in as well. So again, 8 out of 10 I've went with Michael.
Agree. I've seemed to be doing that a lot this podcast, actually. But yeah, I mean, it's that simple thing that you've mentioned, that the fact that we're trying to move and get up the pitch quicker, and Evans facilitates that, is the fact that we're pushing other teams back and we're inviting less pressure onto ourselves. And I think you could tell that even there was one moment I remember when, I think it was a similar argument I said about Doyle, when we were defending like the last 10, 15 minutes, and instead of hoofing it, Evans got the ball, calmed it down, stopped, slowed Wigan's momentum down, and got us trying to go forward again. So again, so simple, but it's effective, and that definitely would have helped with getting us to reorganise and everything. So if we can keep him fit, like you said, he could play a really big part this season. And I think it's no coincidence that we've let like Power, Scowen, and Ledbetter go, and we've signed Corby Evans. Hopefully, that's a sign of what's to come.
Yeah. And John, for you?
Yeah, same gone for Nate. Very, very controlled. Obviously, a no-brainer to make him, captain. Very calm and influence. I would say that it does help, having Neil and Winchester at fullback and sort of Doyle behind him, who can receive the ball of him, and everyone's looking to receive the ball, as opposed to, a few times last season we had players, almost hiding, almost a bit, who wouldn't actively seek the ball, whereas now everyone wants to get on the ball, everyone wants to play the ball. Literally, the way we moved the ball, literally across the pitch, up the pitch, was, a lot of it was just started through him, and that's exactly what we need, as opposed to the jogging back to next to the centre half, and you're effectively playing like a 3, with Ledbetter or Power dropping into taking the ball for centre back, which we don't need, and that may be a reason we've got Doyle in there now. Is we don't need that dropping in. We can play 10, 15 yards forward, and like Michael said, that then gives us the onus to push forward and create our own attacks, which keeps them 15 yards up the pitch as opposed to attacking us. So it's going well. And Evans is a massive part of that. We just need to keep him fit, look after him, and do not play him Tuesday night. Let him have the week off.
Yeah.
And don't
Kyle, for you?
Yeah, I think Evans is, one of my candidates for man of the match, really. And I think the biggest thing that both him and we'll get on to 09 next, but in that midfield role, their physicality and their tackles, the roar from the crowd on a well-timed hard tackle is only second to a goal, right?
Yeah.
And he fits in perfectly. I think he's exactly the type of player the fans will get behind. Very physical. Love seeing the tackles. I just hope that doesn't lead to injuries, right? Because it is kind of a double-edged sword. But when you have two midfielders there who are not afraid to really get stuck in, the attacking players are going to avoid them, right? They're going to start going out wide instead of right through the middle because they're afraid they're going to get clattered. So a little Cattermole-esque, I would say, but I thought he slotted in perfectly, and he's so far been a very sturdy captain that I can tell. So I think the right decision there was made.
Luke O'Neill was alongside him in midfield. Obviously, he did play a lot at centre back last season. Played at right back, played at left back, played up front, I think, one game. And there was a lot of talk when he was, kind of waiting on this new deal, whether he's a player that we should be keeping or not. And I've always said from the start that he is a type of player that you do need, especially in League One. And I think yesterday he showed why, and I think he showed why he should be in midfield as well. Lots of energy. He went strong into tackles. Some neat stuff he played, a couple of 1-2s, and like I say, I think he just definitely suits the midfield role. I don't think he did anything too special, so I've went with a 6, Michael.
So I'd go with a 7. I think I
would have said a high 6. Well,
fair enough. I'd have said a 7 personally. I think that him and Evans have got the potential for a good partnership, and Luke O'Neill did all the things that you suggested, that you've just alluded to in midfield, but also at the same time he wound up Max Power and he wound up a couple of their players. So And as much as Luke O'Nine's, I think this has been said to death already, but the fact that Luke O'Nien is one of the nicest people you could ever see, probably off the pitch, he must be a proper nuisance on it, for want of a word that doesn't involve swearing. So, nice good old 7.
Yeah. And John, for you?
Yeah, I'll probably go for 7. I thought he complemented the midfield quite well. He's maybe Corby Evans' legs in there, got around the pitch, battled well. Won the stupid little free kicks we like that. Keep the game ticking along. And I'd like to see him a little bit more of a threat in and around the box. If we've got Evans behind, he can push and sort of help out Embleton. But yeah, I thought he was decent yesterday. Yeah, 7.
Yeah. And Kyle, for you?
Yeah, I think 6 is pretty fair, only because their goal, it was his ball that he kind of tried to volley it to Mcgady. Mcgady just didn't get there, and then immediately they took down that sideline, and you could tell the man that initially received the pass that hit it off the post that then led to the goal. It was O'Nine's man, and he was just a step or two behind, which was weird because usually you see O'Nien. He's got a motor that's always running. I thought he was going to be able to catch up, but he was just, I don't know if he just didn't see him or what, but he was just caught out just barely a step or two behind that initial ball that, played off the post and led to the goal. So other than that, though, did everything else you want. Super physical. You could tell he knew that he had made the mistake there. And he's just the kid. It's like he's back to playing midfield again. So maybe he's got to learn that, right? He's been playing at right and left back or all over the place, everything except for goalie, basically. So it'll probably take him a few games to just remember, oh yeah, I am a midfielder. So I'll give him a little bit of slack there, but I think overall he did great. Him and Evans is a great partnership.
Yeah. And moving on to the last midfielder, Elliot Embleton. First half, I think he struggled to get involved too much. Obviously, I think it was him that did play the pass into Stewart. And I think it was against Hull in pre-season again, a very similar type of pass. He played the ball across himself into Stewart, into the box, and ultimately that's how they won the penalty. And second half, great ball in from the corner to get the assist, some good ball work outside of that. And, I think his ability on set pieces, as we mentioned a couple of times, he can take it on his right, he can take it on his left. I think that will be very valuable. Obviously, he got promoted last season, so that could be a sign of things to come, hopefully. But I went with 7, Michael.
Agree. But again, I think that's a pretty fair rate. And I think when you look at the qualities that he offers going forward, like you said yourself, he had a hand in both goals. He got the move going that led to Stewart winning the penalty and obviously got the assist for the winner. And I know Sunderland don't usually have common sense about them, but if they have common sense about them, don't entertain any offers from Blackpool whatsoever and timed out a longer contract.
Yeah. John, for you?
Yeah, I've gone for 7. We sent him away for this reason to come back and then do the business for us, and so far looking promising. So yeah, I've gone for 7. Only little thing, he should learn how to header it down, and then we're 3-1 up then.
3-1 up.
If that's me being super critical though.
Yeah. Kyle, for you?
Yeah, I think as all mentioned, he was always in the right spot, always there or thereabouts. I almost wish he kind of put his stamp a little bit more on the game, but I think that's just such a luxury to have in that teams are definitely going to focus on him. They're going to realize that he is kind of a linchpin for us to get things moving. And so as long as he's aware of that and knows to quickly play it out to now a one-on-one situation with either Gooch or Mcgady, because all the attention's on Embleton, I think it's going to work out fantastically. So I think he did well, held his own. Love seeing him take a few shots. Nice half volley, but his set piece delivery is key there. So,
yeah. Moving on to front three, Lyndon Gooch. Obviously started on the right hand side, and whenever he got the ball, he looked like he was going to do something with it. A couple of times he received the ball into his feet, and he just turned his defender so easily. He can go inside, he can go outside, put some decent balls in the box. Obviously hit the bar later on. So I went with an 8 out of 10 for Gooch. Probably would have went with a 9 out of 10 if he'd actually, got an assist or got himself on the score sheet. But I think an 8 is somewhat of a fair rating from Michael.
Yeah, again, agree. I think the thing I mentioned before was that Gooch was literally targeting Wigan's left back, and you could tell, and particularly in the first half, I noticed that a lot of Sunderland's attacks, when we had to go down the wings, was down our right and Coventry's left-hand side. Gooch was a menace for their fullback and kept getting forward. And this is coming from someone who's very critical of Gooch, because there was only a couple of things where I was being very critical, was that there's a couple of times that his decision-making, and it's his usual problem, could be a bit better. Had his decision-making been a bit better, he probably would have got an assist or a goal. However, that's definitely one of his better games that I've seen for a while. And if he continues that, then I'll gladly shut up.
Yeah. John, for you?
Yeah, I've gone for 8. I thought he was brilliant. Direct running, and I'm sure their left back won't want to come back and play against him ever again, because he literally did have the beating with him. Only being slightly critical, same as what Michael said. I'd just like some of those balls just to be able to, just deliver on maybe one or two more of those balls a little bit more clinical. But then I assume if he did that, he'd be maybe playing at a higher level. So it'd be nice to see him play like this throughout the whole season. And we've got a massively good player on our hands.
Yeah. Kyle, for you?
Yeah, I think he embodied, like I said, everything that the fans are looking for. Someone who's constantly running, fills in at fullback when needed as well. Yeah. But I think it was just incredible to see, his attacking intent. My only gripe, like, is if I'm going to be ultra critical of it, is just sometimes he beats that defender, and I'm like, okay, whip it in. And he'll stop, he'll pull it back, and then he'll go again and then stop. And it's just like that. Like Mcgady, I think, has mastered that, the kind of the stop and go and then whip it in. And Gooch is just I think just taking that one touch too many, where it's just like, no, just whip it in, because it keeps the defenders on their toes too. Because if you do that save move too many times, they're going to know how to defend it. But if you mix it up and say, okay, I'm going to whip it in first time now instead of pulling it back, or you're trying to cut in, that's me being ultra critical. And I think the biggest difference from Gooch I've seen so far is that he looks very fit right now, very in shape. Whereas I feel like other seasons he's kind of come in a little bit off the pace a little bit. I think he's come in honestly probably in the best shape of his life at this point, and really looking to get after it. So I think 8, almost 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. Well, Stuart, obviously he worked very hard throughout. We've said that every time we've seen him play. He ran the channels very well. His movement was excellent. That's how he won the penalty. He won his fair share of headers. I'm not entirely sure how many he won, but I'd imagine it was most of the ones that he went up for. And obviously he got himself a goal with a header as well. So again, 8 out of 10, possibly harsh. I'd maybe say 9 out of 10 actually for Stuart. Michael?
Now, see, with what I said when I was talking about Doyle, I'd look like a right idiot if I didn't give Stuart a 9, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fine. On that basis, I'll have to go with a 9. I think that, again, I'll try not to touch on Charlie White again too much, but it's just pretty clear as days. In terms of general play, he offers so much more than White. And while he might not be able to get as many goals as White did last year, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. He will get more assists and will contribute more in general play than White did.
Yeah. John, for you?
Yeah, I've gone with 9. I thought he led the line really well. And
thank God, I look like less of an idiot. Cheers, John.
I think obviously it's hard not to touch on Wyke, because that's what we've been used to seeing, and that's what we've seen, week in, week out. I think he's a much more rounded striker. All right, he got us goals, Charlie White, but now Stuart's starting to bang him in, and if he's bringing that to the game, an all-round game, then we've got much better asset on our hands than we did have with Charlie White. I thought he was brilliant. I thought his closing down was brilliant. He's just a handful, and it's brilliant to see the picture of his header and White just sort of turning his back on it. It was perfect. That's exactly what we want to see, and fair play to Stuart for taking his opportunity.
Yeah, and Kyle, for you?
Yeah, can't argue with anything that you guys said. I'd say about an 8, possibly 9 out of 10. I think the 30 goals has been mentioned a lot from White. I think what Stuart allows us to do is take that 30 goals, maybe get 10 from Gooch, 10 from Mcgady, another 10 from having that dynamic ability to bring more players in. Yeah, 30 goals is great, but like we said, if that 30 goal scorer is shut down, you got a whole lot of other single-digit goal scorers around you that are now supposed to pick up that slack. It's just not going to happen. But Stuart allows us to be so much more open, brings more players in. I thought he was fantastic.
Sorry to interrupt again, but like Kyle's just touched upon, it's great that what you want is to have more goals spread around the team, because if you look after White in the league, he got 25 goals in the league, and our second
was Ledbetter, wasn't it?
Ledbetter with like 8 or something. So if you can get more, if you can spread the goals around a lot more, then straight away there's going to be a lot more things for opposition teams to worry about.
Yeah,
and if one of the players gets injured, it's less of a problem.
Yep,
it is, and that's inevitable, isn't it? At some point.
Oh yeah, with Sunderland, it definitely is.
Moving on to the last player, Mcgady. Obviously, he took and scored the penalty that levelled the game. He looked dangerous on the occasion that he received the ball, but I don't think he didn't have too much involvement which, I suppose is a good thing. The fact that Mcgady didn't really do too much and we still won the game fairly comfortably. I think last season, if we were saying this, that Mcgady didn't do too much, we'd probably be talking about a draw or a loss. But ultimately, like I say, he scored the penalty, leveled the game, put some decent balls into the box. So I remember a 7, Michael.
I'd agree with that. I think one of the good things that you've also said there is that Mcgady didn't have his best game, even though he obviously took and scored the penalty. It was a crucial moment, obviously, because if you don't score that, then I think the crowd gets really unsettled. But with Mcgady, that's definitely promising that he wasn't as good as Gooch. But in a way, I'm glad to say that, though, because it means that other players are starting to step up to the plate, and it's not just rely on Mcgady and cross the ball into the box. But like I said earlier, the more options we've got, the more people step up, the better.
Yeah. And John, for you?
Yeah, I've gone for 7. I thought his balls into the box were decent, to be fair. We were quite unlucky not to get on any of them. But what, like you guys have touched on, what quite impressed me is I think they tried to double up on Mcgady, and that left Lyndon Gooch sort of one-on-one to play his game. And if we'd have made more of what Gooch did, I think then teams are going to have to make a decision. No, who do we double up on? Because we saw last season teams would double up on Mcgady and we struggled. But then we need a counterbalance, which is why I think we tried to bring in Jordan Jones for the other side, which obviously didn't work. But now with an inform and fit Lyndon Gooch, teams are gonna have to think, who are we going to mark? So I think Mcgady has done well in that sense. But yeah, he scores a penalty. You'd have your mortgage on him to score that. So I can't complain. And another one, I'd probably give the week off, and so he's fresh and ready for next weekend.
Yeah,
agreed.
Kyle, for you?
Yeah, I think we hit it right on the head, just not having to rely solely on Mcgady. And what will be interesting to see moving forward is even using him, later on the season as really some tired legs start to get picking up, being able to maybe swap him out on the bench even, right? Have, let's say, Diamond in his position to start running the defender all game, and then for the last 35 minutes, put someone like Mcgady on to put a game away. The fact that we don't have to have him on the entire game is going to be really nice to see, just because the other players pick up the slack. But I think yesterday fairly anonymous outside of the PK, but sometimes that's good because then the defenders and the other team doesn't really know what to expect. So I think he played his role, put the goal away, and just like you said, man, if he would have missed that, it would have gotten a little nervy in the stands. So I think, yeah.
Man of the matches, Michael. I mean, I think it's.
Well, you guys didn't make stuff look like fools, so I'll just do it after what I've said. I think, Ross Stewart, for the reasons I've touched upon, he offers so much more off the ball, and I think that he'll be a crucial player from keeping fit.
Yeah. John, for you?
Yeah, same with me. It's nice to see him get his goal at home, and hopefully it's the first of many.
Yeah. And Kyle?
I'll change it up and call it American bias, but I'll go with Lyndon Gooch. I think
he was very good.
I mean, and I've mentioned it with a few other players, but he just embodies what the crowd wants. He just wants someone to go out there and just absolutely bust his butt on every single play, get stuck in, be emotional, be fiery. And as long as it's not to the team's detriment, I think he did that perfectly. And just a few fine tunes here and there, a little bit of a quicker trigger on some of those crosses, and I'm sure he could easily get to double-digit assists.
Yeah. Moving on to a few things that people said on Twitter when I said after the game. Someone mentioned about Hume re-signing. And John, I'll go to you for this one. Apparently yesterday was the deadline for the decision to be made. So I suppose we'll see in the coming days whether he is signing or not. Obviously, you've got Dennis Churkin or Sirkin or Kirkin or however you say his name. I'm sure we'll find that one out soon enough as well. But what are your views on this whole Hume situation, John? Because I think he is injured at the moment. He's been out of contract for a few months now, I think, or at least been away from Sunderland for a few months. He's clearly holding out for the best deal he can possibly get. Is he good enough to be waiting this long on?
No, I don't think so. The only thing I would have, the maybe a tiny bit of sentiment is because he is a local lad. That's the only thing I'd give him. But it's been far too long now for a resolution. Do you know what I mean? We're still, I'd assume, paying his medical bills because he's still, I think he's still training and having treatment at the Academy of Light. So to not then commit as well, I'm sure he's got a decent enough contract because he's young, so he probably can ask for that, with maybe added on incentives. But by the looks of it, if we're going to go out and spend, I would have thought it's probably at least $500,000 that we're getting the Tottenham guy. I would have thought. Then if we're definitely committing to that money, we don't then have to commit to any money for to give to Hume. So maybe pick up Sirkin or whatever his name is, and then see what's about. And he's had long enough now for me. So I'd say, well, you literally, if the deadline was yesterday, I said, well, if you don't want to sign, you don't want to sign. So we wish you the best of luck, and off you go. So that's where I'd stand on it.
Yeah. Lee said, obviously, the main positives are the way they closed people down yesterday, and actually looking after the passes that we're making. He says last season we couldn't keep the ball in play for long enough, couldn't really string many passes together, Michael. And again, that is, kind of, I suppose, a compliment to the midfield that we've got now. It's a lot more complementary of each other, I suppose. I think so many times last season, I would say, having Power, Ledbetter, and Scowen or whoever it would be in the same midfield, they're all kind of the same player. But you've got Evans, who likes to sit and he'll dictate the play in a much more positive way than anyone else would have last season. You've got Embleton, who can, make that forward pass, grab a few goals, get the assists, and then you've got O'Nien, who will just never stop running and give everything. So, like I say, just a lot more composed on the ball this season compared to last.
Well, again, I've touched on earlier. It's more variety in the midfield. We're less pedestrian. We're less one-dimensional, and again relieves that, like Kyle alluded to earlier, again touched on earlier, that some areas of the back line yesterday were inexperienced in terms of how many competitive games they've had. The only one really was Flanagan, who's played a regular amount of games at that level. And if your midfield controls it and has enough variety in it and dominates the midfield like ours did yesterday, then we're going to see a lot more benefits from it.
Yeah. Sam says, although Neil was out of position, still think he was solid. His passing, which I did notice out the game, it shows his midfield role that he's capable of, the passes forward. There's a few passes in the game that he used it outside of his boot, which kind of curled it around the defender. It'll be nice to see Churkin in his left back role, allowing Neil to go into his main midfield role. And I think that is one thing that you can take out of him out of the game yesterday, Kyle, can't you? His ability to pass the ball, which is, kind of given as a footballer, but weirdly, probably haven't seen enough of that recently.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think it did bring an element of almost uncertainty for Wigan too, because when you have a player like that who's used to making critical passes, he's not making the same runs that a normal right or left back would make, right? Because he doesn't really know those runs yet. So the fact that he was a little bit unpredictable, but still managed to not make that mistake and not make a bad pass, but make good passes, I think kept Wigan off guard because they didn't know whether he was going to run out, run in, keep the ball, take it. So I almost think that played. It's not gonna work like that all season, but I almost think that played in our hand, where they were probably expecting him to act more like a normal. A fullback there, but the types of runs and passes he was making was one that you'd see in a midfield. So obviously we'd love to see him there. I think he's got a role to play on this team, and it's great to see a kid like him come through the academy and have this role and have that opportunity to play in front of the fans.
Yeah. And the last point that I'll touch on, John, I'll go to you for this one. It was David who says he drank Carlin for the first time yesterday and can confirm as warned it tastes like piss. Are you a Carlin man?
I'm not, unfortunately. I'm well on board with that view. Unfortunately, I'm more of a Moretti myself.
More of a Moretti. Michael, for you, is that a reasonable
I'm not much
statement?
of a drink of alcohol, so by default, I'll say neither.
And Kyle, do you have Carlin in America?
No, but I did go out to the Northeast. This was back the fall of 2019. So I did have my fair share of Carling. Even Tennant's was up there a lot. I had as well. It tastes a lot like just kind of the standard, like the Coors Lights of America, right? Nothing too special, but yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it gets the job done. So I mean, I don't think anyone's really drinking much for taste. So
no, I've always said that about beer.
10 if you're rating it then.
Say that again.
I said, since we're rating players, let's rate Carling.
I mean, a solid, I would say 4. Four. I'm not going to say 1, 2. Like I said, when you're looking to get that buzz on before the game, it's light, it's easy. It's nothing fancy. You can drink a bunch of them. So yeah, convenient, versatile. Yeah.
Very interesting one. But that is all we have time for today. I appreciate you all coming on, Kyle, John, and Michael. Appreciate you joining.
Thanks as ever.
Yeah, thanks. It's been fun. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for having
me. Port Vale is the next game, which is in the Cup of Sunderland on Tuesday. I'll probably try to get a podcast out to discuss the game at some point, probably on Wednesday. But if not, we will be back to talk about the next league game, which is away to MK Dons on Saturday. I think there's plenty of fans travelling down there for what I think is the first away game we've been able to attend in, 20 months?
Something like that,
isn't it?
So
the last one was Bristol Rovers away in March 2020, which I went to, so that would still be 17 months, I think.
It's a long time. So hopefully, for anyone going down there, it will be worthwhile. But I suppose it'll depend. It is a little fan hub derby, that as well, because there's a few people. Well, there's one that supports MK Dons at fan hub. So hopefully we can get the win so I can give him a bit of crack like we have with the Wigan fans over the weekend. Hopefully it doesn't end in too many blocks, though. But we will wait and see, like I say, potentially on Wednesday, if not back on Sunday, to talk about the MK Dons game. But until then, we will see you later.
That's all, folks.